OSS Demo Framework is available on GitHub shown here. The GitHub repo includes all the code and configuration files you need, including a walkthrough of the script. To install, all you need is the Ubuntu shell running on Windows 10, Mac OS Sierra Later, CentOS 7.3, or RHEL 7. In this setup, I will be using Ubuntu on shell on Windows 10. Once the shell is running, run the scripts to do the install. The first command to run is the git clone. Copy the command, paste it into the shell, and run. In my case, on this new machine, Git is not installed. To install, all I need to do is run apt-get install git. Let's run. Most of you will already have Git installed, so this step won't be necessary. Once Git is installed, we'll essentially rerun the git clone command. Let's rerun the git clone command. And now we're downloading all the files that we need to configure the demo environment. Next, we will mark the script to configure the demo environment as an executable. Copy it from the browser, paste it into the shell, excellent. Now we can actually run the script to build the demo environment. Copy the command, paste it into the shell. The script creates all the resources needed for running and installing the demos. Essentially a resource group, networking, and a utility VM that is used for provisioning all other demos. We will call this VM the jump box. The script requires SU rights, so it will ask you for the password for SU. We ensure all binaries are up to date on your machine. We ensure Git's installed. We install Ansible. Ansible is the software we use to configure and manage the demo framework machines. We are utilizing open source tools here for provisioning Azure to show the customers they have choice and flexibility. Notice it's installing Python, which Ansible depends on. After Ansible and its dependencies are installed, we install the Azure CLI tool. We utilize this open source tool to provision all Azure resources and services. We then update all the Azure CLI components. Let's go ahead and say yes to tab completion and leave the path as default. Next, we check to see if you're logged into Azure. In my case, I am not, so I need to sign in via the browser and register this device. Let's copy the URL to register the device and log in. Copy it, paste it into the browser. Now let's copy the device code given to us from the script. Copy the code, paste it into the browser. Let's hit continue. And now let's log into Azure. Let me enter my username, password, and now I'm logged on to Azure. Next, we need to enter the subscription that I'm going to use for my demo environment, or just hit enter for default. In my case, I'm choosing a different Azure subscription. Next, we then enter a server prefix, which should be less than 8 characters and all lowercase. This prefix gives your demo environment a unique name. Let's hit enter. Next, give us your admin username and the password. Make sure you take note of these, as you will be using them later on in the demo. After you've put in the new admin password and re-entered it for verification, you will then be asked for a storage prefix. Let's just keep this as the default. Next, it'll ask you if you want to create the resource groups and network rules. In our case, we do. Using Azure CLI, we will then create the resource groups necessary. Now we're applying the network security groups. Next, it's asking us if we want to create the Jumpbox server. Hit yes here, and now the Azure CLI will go out and create the Jumpbox server. We've also configured the VM for SSH. We manage all the SSH in the demo framework, so you don't need to worry about them. Next, we need to verify the VM is actually running. Let's go to the Azure portal. Go to resource groups. Notice the OSS demo utility resource group that the script created. Now notice all of the resources that our script has created. It's created the VM, the managed disk, the public IP, NIC. Let's select the VM. And yes, the VM is running. So let's continue. Let's go back to our Ubuntu shell. Let's hit enter. Next, we log on to that VM that we've created and reset the password for the admin and admin username to the values that you created, that you give us. Next, we use Ansible to configure the VM. Here we're making sure that Yum is up to date, Python is installed, Git is installed. This process can take a while, and I have sped this up for this video. We also install RDP, so you can RDP into the virtual machine. We download .NET. We install .NET. Configure .NET. And begin installing Visual Studio Code. We're installing Visual Studio Code just for demo purposes. We then install the Azure CLI. Remember, we're installing the Azure CLI on the utility VM we just created. We install some developer tools. And finally, we install GNOME so that you can remote desktop into the machine. Everything is run. Let's run our remote desktop application. Let's enter the fully qualified domain name of our virtual machine and connect. Let's enter our username and password. We noted this before when the script was running for the install. Click OK. And now we're connecting to our virtual machine. Let's enter our password for the administrator and authenticate. And now we have a fully provisioned virtual machine for creating all of our open source demos. The next set of scripts that I'll show will be installing the other demos.